Number 15. Sunflower from Fantasia. Disney's 1940 animated ode to Beethoven's Symphony No. 6 titled Fantasia was a whimsical journey of imagination and brilliant color. Unfortunately, the film originally included a very racist African-American pickaninny caricature by the name of Sunflower. The exaggerated character was a big-lipped, half-donkey centaur handmaid. In later releases of the animated film, the character was removed entirely. However, that didn't do much to help how offensive the entire situation was, because Disney spent years refusing to even admit that Sunflower was ever in the film. Furthermore, many believe that she should have been added back into certain releases of the film because it would be of great use to highlight past racism and its change over time. While she was clearly a symbol of racist stereotypes associated with African American women and would still be seen as very offensive today, it's possible that leaving her in the film would be a good idea to avoid future mistakes that are similar. This is a debate that has gone on since the removal of Sunflower, and there may never be much of a solution. Number 14. Drugs in Alice in Wonderland. Since its release in 1951, the controversy over Alice in Wonderland has died down significantly. The film isn't seen as much more than a playful, trippy Disney classic, one that even rebellious teenagers can get behind. However, when it was originally released, it actually received a lot of backlash from viewers. British critics attacked the studio for Americanizing the classic Lewis Carroll tale, and American viewers criticized Walt Disney for distorting Carroll's prose, claiming that Disney took beloved characters with emotional and intellectual depth and chalked them up to nothing more than whimsical singing weirdos. Another huge source of controversy came from the clear implication of drug use throughout the film. Thinking about it today, the first thing that comes to mind with Alice's adventures is hallucinogenic drugs, particularly LSD. And when we think of the caterpillar while he's smoking hookah, we automatically associate him with being high on marijuana. This was not something that pleased the population in 1950. Many people actually thought the movie was trying to encourage children to try drugs. As the years went on, the film became an icon for the hippies and drug users of the 60s and 70s, especially after the hit by Jefferson Airplane in 1967 titled White Rabbit. The controversy around this film was never enough to cause the film to be banned or to not be released for home viewing. It became a pretty quick classic amongst all viewers. Children can watch the film with its illogical riddles and bright colors without losing attention, and drug experimenters of all ages use this as a go-to for an enhanced trip. Number 13. Pocahontas. Yet another Disney classic that has a huge racist and culturally incorrect controversy around it. This film was released in 1995, a period in time where we assumed public school education had given everyone a fair idea of the way Native American life worked in addition to the white man entering America. Although it's likely more of a Disney characteristic than something racist, the Native Americans are shown to be so involved with nature that they are able to speak to animals and trees. There's also a problem with authenticity. Disney claims the movie Pocahontas is roughly based on the true story of the Native American woman by the same name. However, they've twisted a tale of kidnapping and Stockholm Syndrome into a lighthearted love story. Not to mention that most of the Englishmen are shown being generally civil towards the Native Americans after a short battle. Anyone who has taken a middle school history class knows that this is not the case. There was no such thing as a happy ending for real-life Native Americans in the colonial era. Not to mention that Pocahontas didn't even marry John Smith. She actually married a completely unrelated Englishman by the name of John Rolfe. This movie got a huge response from Native American viewers, activists, and historians. However, as Disney is such a powerful corporation and the movie was such an instant classic, not much was done to retaliate. Number 12. The Crows in Dumbo. The cutesy and emotional animated film Dumbo was released in 1941 and was immediately a huge hit. But as Disney often does, they slipped in something very offensive that gave at least a few scenes of this adorable movie a terrible vibe. The most popular scene that features the murder of crows, mostly voiced by African American actors, aside from the leader of the group who is voiced by a white actor, actually received very mixed reactions. On one hand, the crows are depicted as lazy, poor, uneducated, cigar-chomping jive talkers with a love of jazz music.
I see the house fly. See, I seen all that too. I seen a peanut stand and heard a rubber band. I seen a needle that winked its eye. But I be done seeing about everything when I see an elephant fly.
After this, the African-American actors submit to the leadership of Jim, the white actor, whose words and singing come courtesy of the only Caucasian in the bunch. On the other, however, they are also some of the only characters in the entire movie to ever offer Dumbo a bit of compassion or understanding. They accept him for him, and ask for no compromises. In addition, they are much freer spirits than some of Disney's previous depictions of African-Americans. The song featured in the film, Song of the Rustabouts, makes the positive argument a little harder to side with. The song features literally faceless African-American workers, and the lyrics praise the virtues of painstaking work with little to no reward.
Work all night, get the life, read or write, we're happy-hearted roustabouts.
It's almost presented in some form of propaganda for slavery or racial unfairness. Number 11, Song of the South. While this movie isn't as much of a classic as the others, it is still widely popular because it was Disney's first unique attempt to mix live action and animation. The film was released in 1946 and was based on the Uncle Remus stories by Joel Chandler Harris. The film's depiction of black former slaves and of race relations in Reconstruction-era Georgia got attention from many critics and activists immediately. It's said to be racist to a point that it almost seems satirical. However, seeing as it's a children's movie, we can basically assure that Walt Disney didn't mean for it to come off as satire, but rather, it's just a very racist film. James Baskett played the controversial role of Uncle Remus, and even in the time of filming, the studio was concerned about potential offenses. Most of the racial issues that come from his character aren't really based on his personality traits. Mostly they're based on the fact that the movie gives a strange glorification to slave life and portrays former slaves as willing and happy to submit to white landowners, almost as if it's a privilege. Because of the controversy surrounding this film, Disney has yet to release it to any form of home viewing, even to this day.
So long, Uncle Remus.
Sure hope you know what you was doing.
Don't worry about me. I can take care of myself.
Number 10, The Merchant from Aladdin. Released in 1992, Disney managed to anger vast groups of Arab Americans by their politically incorrect and violent portrayal of India. The first song of the film featured the controversial lyrics, "Where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home," in reference to Middle Eastern culture. Most people know that the Middle East is filled with violence. However, many places in the world are, and it was wrong to use it as a key defining feature of the region in a children's song. The lyrics understandably provoked anger, especially in conjunction with the idea of how much Indian and Middle Eastern culture has contributed to the advancements of mathematics and surgical procedures through history. In later home video releases of the film, the offensive lyrics were strategically replaced with something more friendly. Even aside from the merchant who sets up the story, Aladdin's cast in general has evoked a lot of controversy for portraying the features and accents of the protagonists as heavily Americanized, while making the villains more exaggerated on racial characteristics and Arab accents. That being said, regardless of the replaced lyrics, we still can't help but to feel bothered by Disney's idea that the good people in the story should be depicted as more white and American, while the villains should be more correct for the region. Why not make them all more Arab? Number 9, General Princess Controversy. If you even step foot on the blog website Tumblr or any number of BuzzFeed posts, you're bound to see fan art of Disney princesses reimagined as different genders, races, weights, and everything in between. It's definitely become a trend to take the current perfect idea of princesses and completely change it. The biggest problem comes from the fact that most of the Disney princesses are white and thin and depend on men for everything. The misogynistic vibe mostly comes from the original folklore that many of the stories are based on. However, the body types and races presented in the stories are a little uncalled for. Disney could have done many things to add diversity to their princess lineup, but they chose not to. While people can't go back in time and change the way these princesses are portrayed, they can certainly put their own artistic ability to use in creating an entirely new collection of princesses that represent women as a whole. While Disney is working to get closer and closer to a broader variety of princess types, as well as to stray away from the typical ideal that men save women, they still have a long way to go. But progress is progress, even in its lightest form. Number 8, Bambi's approach to death. Disney has occasionally come under fire for plot points that are seen as too grim or violent for children. A great example of this issue can be seen in the classic film from 1942, Bambi. Even children too young to know the severity of death have spilled buckets of tears during the gruesome scene where Bambi's mother is gunned down by a hunter. Not knowing the premise of death, or the hierarchy of existence, doesn't change the fact that children know this scene is meant to be heartbreaking. There was so much backlash from this scene that a British industry watchdog group had the film almost banned in 2003 for causing psychological damage to children too young to know what death really is. According to Entertainment Time, the death of Bambi's mother causes the protagonist to master the requisite life skills of overcoming adversity. But some question whether many typical Disney viewers are too young to be exposed to the theme. With little to no understanding of an actual storyline, many children will just see this as a heart-wrenching scene in an otherwise upbeat movie. Number 7. Princess of North Sudan. In June 2014, an American father traveled 6,000 miles, which included a 14-hour caravan trip to unclaimed territory in Africa to plant a flag designed by his daughter. This man basically bought land and claimed a small personal country so that his daughter could be a real-life princess. The country's founding was on his daughter's 7th birthday. All of this sparked an interest in Disney, and they immediately thought it would be a great idea to make a film based on this story titled The Princess of North Sudan. Most of the controversy sparked after Disney announced the film, and many took to Twitter to express anger. Many claimed that the premise of the movie is romanticizing colonialism and a story of literal white entitlement. Unsurprisingly, many were not too pleased to find out that Disney's first African princess, not African American but from Africa, would be a white American. The father responded with, "What I am doing is the exact opposite of colonialism," he said. The dictionary defines colonialism as one country taking control of another to exploit its resources or people. Bertowil is not a country. It does not have a population, and I don't represent the United States or a corporation. What we're doing is designed to improve people's lives. He hopes to turn North Sudan into an experimental territory for growing food in dry desert climates and has already garnered the interest of hundreds of scientists around the world. The family hopes to crowdfund an initial goal of $250,000 to help realize his children's dream: to grow a garden big enough to feed everyone in the world. Although this father does seem to have good intentions, maybe Disney should hold off on a movie for a couple more years. Number 6. Buildings in The Little Mermaid. On the original poster for the 1989 film, many parents became enraged with what they assumed to be phallic-shaped buildings in the background. While these are clearly not giant golden male genitals, parents were convinced that it was some sort of subliminal messaging. Added to the other handful of times that Disney has been accidentally sexual, this led to a change in the poster. However, many photos of the original poster can be found online, so feel free to make a personal judgment. Number 5. The Apes from Jungle Book. In the original novel, The Jungle Book, author Rudyard Kipling made no explicit parallels between African Americans and apes. In fact, the character King Louie wasn't even in the novel, but rather was thrown in by Disney. He scats and talks jive with a rather obvious cadence, singing about how he wants to be more like the human of the story.
Ooby-doo, I want to be like you. I want to walk like you, talk like you.
It's hard not to see the surface racism presented by King Louie. However, there is a story beneath this character that not many people take the time to know before assuming that Disney is just practicing their usual stereotypical thinking. Many viewers believe that King Louie was based heavily on the mannerisms and personalities of Louis Armstrong, the American jazz singer popular in the 60s and 70s. However, King Louie was actually based more on the voice actor himself, Louis Prima. Despite the African-American racial assumptions, Prima was actually a very white jazz musician and bandleader from New Orleans. When recording this character, he did not mimic African-American speech patterns of the time. This was literally just how he spoke because of his upbringing in the area in which he lived. So while Disney is often the villain in the battle of stereotypes and general racism, this was honestly just a misunderstanding. Number 4. The Princess and the Frog. The December 11th nationwide release of The Princess and the Frog marked the first time Disney ever portrayed an African-American heroine on the big screen, which was about time after 86 years in the film industry. Despite Disney's clever decisions, such as using a more ethnic-sounding name, Tiana, instead of her originally scripted Maddie, and making her the head chef of an affluent white family rather than her original job as a maid, critics had a few doubts. There were concerns as to why Tiana's prince was given an ambiguous name and was suspiciously light-skinned even for his origins. Why did Disney choose to set the film in New Orleans, home to a largely black community that was still reeling from Hurricane Katrina? More importantly, what was with the play on the voodoo theme? Was it a black stereotype or a regional one? Or was it possibly just Disney finding a way to throw in some magic, as is always necessary? Luckily, despite these few nitpick concerns, the film eventually was given an overall good review. Number 3. Good Luck Charlie. One of the few live-action controversies for Disney was actually based around a rare attempt to be more open-minded. In an episode of the series Good Luck Charlie that aired on January 2013, Disney's first openly gay couple was featured. Charlie, the little girl that the show is based on, was having a friend over for a playdate, and then the child's parents showed up. They were two mommies.
Hi! Taylor!
1 Million Moms, an organization geared towards cleaning up television, spoke out, saying, "Just because something may be legal or because some are choosing a lifestyle doesn't make it morally correct. Disney should stick to entertaining instead of pushing an agenda." Many people, it would seem, find themselves in agreement with this group of online mothers, preferring to see on the screen what they believe to be good for their children rather than what is considered politically correct. Just the same, some of those who oppose the development simply do not see the subject at hand as suitable for kids, claiming that it would spur premature parent-child controversies regarding sexuality. The show was ultimately canceled shortly after the episode, and many of the cast members, including the 5-year-old actress that played the role of Charlie, received death threats. While many opposed the common idea that Disney made the wrong choice and supported the idea of early education of different sexualities and family dynamics, Disney executives and lawyers found it easier to pull the plug on the show entirely. Number 2. The Siamese Cats and Lady and the Tramp. The 1955 film Lady and the Tramp was a light-hearted story of two characters and puppy love. Talking animals and scenes full of song made for a pretty overall entertaining and heartwarming film. However, there was one severely controversial set of characters that gave the viewers of this cute film a bitter feeling. The Siamese Cats have been named as two of the most racist Disney characters ever. The twin cats are based on Asian stereotypes. They have heavily slanted eyes, thick accents, and tan skin. They are also, unfortunately, two villains in the film. The cats are shown in a very negative light as manipulative, greedy, and careless.
Siamese, if you please.
After America's battle with the Japanese during World War II. This is shown symbolically when the cats destroy Lady's home only moments after arriving. It was likely a metaphor for ill feelings towards the Japanese. In fact, Disney representatives have even released that in earlier versions of the storyline, drafted in 1943 during the war, the two cats appear as secondary antagonists and suggest the Yellow Peril, which was an ideal during the war that people of Asian culture or ethnicity were a moral danger to Americans. While there was never an effort to ban the film or edit out these racist characters, it's been a huge cause for controversy in the years following the film's release. Number 1. The Native Americans in Peter Pan. The 1953 instant Disney classic Peter Pan was actually once the center of a huge racial and cultural controversy. The portrayal of Native Americans in this film was highly stereotypical and very offensive, to say the least. Their skin is literally a shade of red, and they are shown as wild savages compared to their white counterparts. The film also features these characters running around teepees with feathers in their hair, clapping their hands over their mouths. Basically, Disney went to the most incorrect and exaggerated portrayal of Native American culture that they could find. To push the entire controversy even further, the song in the film that is centered around the scene featuring these characters is titled "What Makes a Red Man Red," and it includes ridiculous lyrics that imply Native Americans literally do have red skin. It also plays a big part on broken English.
What made the red man red? What made the red man red? Let's go back 1,000,000 years to the very first Indian prince. He kissed some maid and started to blush, and we've all been blushing since.
While the plays that came before the Disney animated film did not receive much backlash over these racial stereotypes, many felt that Disney took an already offensive portrayal and doubled it. Disney made claims that this was all due to the original story written by J.M. Barrie, but many still believe that Disney could have taken measures to lessen or avoid the offensive nature of the Native American characters. Later adaptations of Peter Pan worked harder to make these images more politically correct. Got an idea for a top 15 list? Submit it at top15s.net/submit. Be sure to subscribe for future videos. Thanks for watching. For me, the narrator, personally, you can head over to my channel, youtube.com/WeeGeePlays, or just check the description to get a link to it directly. I do things like play video games. That was really scary, and I am scared to talk about anime and some other stuff, and do some voiceovers. If I saw you, I'll beat the shitty out of you and stab you in cock with a knife! I don't know, it's a pretty good time. You should stop by, maybe you'll find something you like. Or, you know, don't. I don't know, it's your life, I'm not gonna tell you how to live. Once again, thank you all for watching.